A good crowd joining us tonight. I think we have like over 100 people. So welcome everybody. I'm sure there are people from all over the country, over the continent. So thank you for joining us tonight. And again, as we're waiting for people to log in, we'll give everybody another minute. We'll introduce our presenters for tonight. We're thrilled to have you join us or learn more about David's next edition of a screen reader primer from the Carroll Center for the Blind. And everybody should have gotten a notification that tonight's presentation is being recorded and it will be made available on the Carroll Center website. And for all of those of you who registered, you will be getting an email with the link in a couple of days with that recording as well. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. We still have people logging in, but I do like to start and not keep everybody waiting. We have a lot of content presentation that David is going to share with us tonight. And I want to make sure everybody can hear about his new book. So again, thank you for joining us. My name is Dina Rosenbaum. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Carroll Center for the Blind. I'm thrilled to be here with you all tonight and have you learn about our screen reader primer that David Kingsbury has written and is now updated to the next edition. So first, let me introduce to you Brian Switzer. Brian is our Program Manager of Accessibility, Technology, Training, and Research at the Carroll Center for the Blind, and he's going to introduce David. Take it away, Brian.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I get the privilege of working with David Kingsbury every day. David is our technology instructor at the Carroll Center for the Blind. David has a degree from UMass at Amherst, as well as another degree from Michigan State University. He had been working at the Carroll Center for 10 years. I believe I owe him a steak for some kind of fancy dinner for his 10-year anniversary. We will have to choose another night besides tonight to do it. As you are all aware, the fourth edition of his book, the third edition has been downloaded all over the world, including the UK, Luxembourg, and Pakistan. So it's a real honor that the book has been so widely shared and that so many people have found benefit from the book wherever they reside around the world. And we're so lucky to have David as a member of our team at the Carroll Center for the Blind. David, outside of his work at the Carroll Center, is very active. He's the president of the Bay State Council for the Blind, where he advocates for more support for the blind community. He's also the co-chairperson of the RIDE committee. So here in the Boston area, we have our Metro Boston Transit Authority, MBTA, and the RIDE is our local paratransit system. And David helped to make sure that we're doing all we can to provide access for all members of the disability community, but also the blind and visually impaired community. So David has a long history and commitment to service. Prior to becoming blind, he did serve internationally, working for the UN and the International Development Agency. He served as an agricultural economist, serving in sub-Saharan Africa, and prior to that, he worked as a Peace Corps volunteer in Chad and Senegal. So David has a long history of service, and we're very grateful that continue to do that, both through direct instruction with clients in our workplace computing program, computing for college program, and other programs at the Carroll Center for the Blind. But also through his book where he's able to reach a wider audience, international audience as well. And with that, I'll let David take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian, for those kind words. Thank you, Dina. And thank you all for coming tonight. Very happy to have you. So this is the 4th edition of my book, and I've prepared an audio file and a video file emphasizing a few of the new things in the book. AI, no surprise, is going to sort of dominate here because things have changed so much since the advent of ChatGPT. We're talking almost, well, 2.5 years ago or so now. Seems like it's been with us forever, but it's constantly adapting. So first thing I'm going to talk about is Notebook LM from Google. Now, what Notebook LM does is you can upload your own documents, other people's documents, links to websites and the like, and Notebook LM will summarize that in a number of different ways. Creating, for example, like 2-3 page briefing notes. I've used those, for example, to upload an audio file of like Zoom meetings, and does a very nice job of sort of summarizing it so that if people want to write minutes, they can extract some of the information out of that and use it. You can also create sort of frequently asked questions. You might want to do that like for a website or an organization or something. Even what's called a study guide, where, for example, upload a chapter of my book, and I've used it like to generate questions, like sort of giving me ideas for quizzes and the like. But the one thing that really grabs people's attention the most is what's called a deep dive. And rather than me summarize what's new in this 4th edition, I'm going to have the Notebook LM folks summarize it for you. And these are a couple of AI generated people. I call them sort of surfer dudes. And they sort of casually banter with each other on whatever you have uploaded. So I uploaded the introduction to my book, just the first 6 or 7 pages. And I let this thing develop the deep dive. I edited it down a bit. And so I'm going to play that now. Rather than me drone on, I'm going to have them summarize the book for you. Now my video's on. I'm going to turn my video off. And I think I'm going to turn my audio off too. Well, I'm going to turn on my screen share.
Screen sharing meeting controls. You have started screen share.
My screen is shared, and I'm now going to go to the file,
Participants
and
can
we'll
now
listen.
see.
This is about 6 minutes or so long.
Zoom Workplace. Launch files dash file explorer. Launch files dash file explorer. Items view multi-select list box. BMIO.
Oh,
WWSCP4 overview by notebook LM.MP3. 13 of 30.
and here goes.
Enter.
This time we're looking at the Windows Screen Reader Primer, specifically the 4th edition. It's a fantastic guide for anyone who wants to master using screen readers in the Windows environment.
Okay, so primer. That word suggests it's like a foundational resource. So who's this really aimed at? Who would get the most out of it?
You got it. It's really for anyone who uses screen readers like JWS, NVDA, or Narrator, and especially for people who want to use them with like all the main Windows applications you'd use daily.
When you say main applications, what do you mean specifically?
Well, like the heart of your computer, the Windows operating system itself, and of course the Microsoft Office suite. So, Word for documents, Outlook for emails, Excel for spreadsheets, PowerPoint for presentations, the kind of stuff most people are working with.
Right, the essentials.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it goes even further than that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It also covers cloud-based file sharing like Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. Then there's stuff on Adobe Acrobat Reader, Zoom Cloud Meetings, and even Google Workspace apps like Docs and Sheets. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you've been using screen readers for years. There's something in here for everyone.
And what I find really interesting is that a resource like this hasn't really existed before, right?
Yeah, that's what's so unique about it. There are lots of resources out there, but nothing that brings it all together in one place.
Hmm.
And that's what the author is trying to do. Make this the go-to reference for everything you need to know about screen readers on Windows. It's not about replacing those other guides, but rather giving you that one-stop shop for the core knowledge.
That makes sense. So we've got a good handle on what the primer is. Now let's dig a little deeper. This isn't just a static document, is it? It gets updated pretty regularly.
Yeah, the first edition came out back in March of 2022. The author planned from the start to update it every year, usually in the spring, and that's continued. This fourth edition, the one we're talking about, was finalized at the beginning of 2025, so it's really up to date.
And when we're talking about software versions, what specifically are we looking at here?
Okay, so this fourth edition covers the fall 2024 releases of Windows 10 and 11. That's versions 24H2 for both of them. And for the screen readers themselves, it covers JGWS 2025, NVDA 2024-24, and the narrator that comes with Windows 11 24H2. Oh, and it mostly uses Office 365. But if you're using a purchase version going back to 2019, it'll let you know about the main differences.
So for someone who's maybe used an older version of this primer, what are some of the new or revised sections in this fourth edition? What are the big changes?
Well, there are quite a few. One of the most interesting is FS Companion. Have you heard of this?
AI assistants that you can trigger with keyboard shortcuts. I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more.
Right. It's really cool. It basically answers your questions about using JAWS, Microsoft Office, Windows, web browsers, even Google Workspace. And you just use keyboard commands to ask. It's like having an expert on call.
That sounds super useful, especially for people who might have trouble remembering specific commands. So what else is new?
Well, there's a handy summary that shows you the similar and different keystrokes across all three screen readers: JWS, NVDA, and Narrator. So if you switch between them a lot, or if you're learning more than one, this can be a huge time saver.
Yeah, definitely helpful to have all those keystrokes in one place. What about for specific applications? Are there any big updates there?
Oh yeah, they've also added info on the new Outlook interface.
Which people are starting to see more and more.
And for Excel users, there's a new section on finding and using advanced functions via the functions library. Even includes a list of handy ones.
Excel can be intimidating, so clear guidance on those more complex features of the screen reader.
And the AI chapter got a big revision. It talks about Microsoft Copilot in Office, Google's Notebook LM, and using Be My Eyes from Windows for describing images. So
Yeah.
really current stuff.
Very relevant.
And this is interesting. For multimedia, it now covers using Reaper for basic video editing.
I'll be your...
Okay, yeah, it replaces an older app that's not really supported anymore.
Then what about accessing the primer itself? Any changes there?
Yeah, they added a section on how to read the book using Bookshare and FS Reader. So that opens up more options for people who prefer those platforms.
What's the author's goal with this book, by the way? Who did he have in mind when he created this?
Well, his main goal was to make this the go-to reference for anyone using screen readers on Windows. He also wanted to make it a useful resource for people who teach blind and low vision folks how to use assistive technology. And with thousands of downloads worldwide, it seems like he's achieving that.
That's incredible. What a huge impact. And the best part is it's totally free, right?
It is. The Carroll Center for the Blind distributes it for free, so anyone who needs it can access it. And the author's committed to updating it regularly, so it'll stay relevant as technology changes.
That ongoing commitment is huge. It's amazing that a resource like this is freely available. And if listeners find it valuable, is there a way they can support the Carroll Center?
Absolutely. The author is always open to feedback and suggestions for future editions. You can email him at david.kingsbury@carroll.org if you have any ideas. And of course, the Carroll Center is a nonprofit, so donations are always welcome.
Wonderful. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners? Why should they check out this primer?
If you're using a screen reader on Windows, this primer is a must-have. It's comprehensive, it's up to date, and it's free. It covers everything you need to know to be productive and efficient. And it can save you so much time and frustration trying to figure things out on your own.
So it's like having a personal tutor at your fingertips.
Exactly. And the great thing is you can pick and choose which chapters to focus on. You don't have to read the whole thing cover to cover.
Yeah.
Just find the sections that are relevant to you and dive in.
Absolutely. So if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, we definitely encourage you to check it out. You can find the latest edition of the Windows Screen Reader Primer on the Carroll Center for the Blind's website.
Yeah.
So for all of you listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and let's continue to push for a digital world that's accessible and inclusive for everyone.
Okay, that is Notebook LM. And I got to admit, the first time I ran something through Notebook LM and let them play through it, I was sort of alternately amazed, creeped out. They said some laugh out loud, funny type things. Um, and it seemed a little bit gimmicky, still does a little bit. But there were a few lines in there. For example, if you're a marketing type of person, there's a few lines that I could extract right out of there and probably use that in the future, just so long as I admitted that it wasn't real human beings saying that type of stuff. But beyond the deep dives that it does there, I think there are some really, good practical tools, text-based, where it will make these summaries in these different ways. I think this came out about last summer, so this was after the third edition. And again, when I first heard somebody do a deep dive, I said, boy, I got to know a little bit more about this. So there is a section on using Notebook LM. That was all free also, by the way. There is a paid version, but I've been able to do what I want to do for free. I'll also say that the initial version of that was about 15 minutes long, and I've edited it down because there was some repetition and so on. So I cut out a good amount to come up with the 6 minutes or so that I came up with there. Okay. Next up, I have a video, and this will be the last thing I show. It's about 15 or 16 minutes long, combines a couple of things. One is Be My Eyes for Windows. And of course, I'm sure many of you on your smartphones use Be My AI for describing pictures. Well, this does the same thing, but only on your computer. And this could be very good for, say, users of NVDA or people who don't even have a screen reader. I would say if you have JAWS, keep using PictureSmart, but this also fits the bill for doing a good job of describing things. It also does this with ChatGPT, as does JAWS PictureSmart. And after that, it morphs into FS Companion, which is a great new tool with JAWS 2025. And well, it will ask a question and you'll see what happens from there. And by the way, the video I created it by simply recording myself in a Zoom meeting. And then I took the MP4, the video file, and I edited it with Reaper. Quite a few blind folks use Reaper for editing audio, but it turns out you can take those same files and MP4 and you can edit those also. So that is what I've done. And I'm going to go to that file now.
Launch files dash file explorer. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. Launch files dash file explorer. Items view multis B. Be My Eyes and FS Companion.mp4. 4 of 13. Enter. Media player. Media player. Media play button.
Be My Eyes for Windows. You can get detailed descriptions of images that are on your computer. Many of you may be using already Be My Eyes on the iPhone and the Be My AI part of that. So this does a similar thing. This can be particularly useful if you are not a JAWS user, because JAWS has PictureSmart for describing images, but you might be an NVDA user, or you might be somebody who doesn't use a screen reader, but just would like access to detailed descriptions of images. So Be My Eyes needs to be downloaded from the Be My Eyes website. I talk about how to do that in the book. And to activate it, you open it as you would with any other app. I'm going to hit the Windows key for my search box.
Search box edit. Type in text.
And I'll type it in.
Be My Eyes, app. Press right to view options. 1 of 1.
And I'll hit enter.
Enter. Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes. Describe my screen left paren keyboard shortcut Alt plus Control plus H right paren button. To activate, press space bar.
So you first land on a screen that tells you what your keystrokes are to get different types of images. So we just heard Control Alt H will describe whatever window you happen to be currently focused on. I'll tab and we'll hear some of the other keystrokes.
Take picture using built-in camera left paren keyboard shortcut Alt plus Control plus J right paren button. To activate, press space bar.
Alt Control J. Now, if you want to use this functionality and you happen to be a JAWS user, you know already that that might conflict with the Control Alt J that you use to open JAWS. You can reassign keystrokes, and we'll see how to do that a little bit later. You could reassign any of these. Maybe there's some keystroke you think you could remember a little bit better than the current ones, and you can reassign those. I'm going to keep tab and we'll hear what some of the other keystrokes are.
Describe picture from File Explorer left paren keyboard shortcut Alt plus Control plus K right paren button. To activate, press space bar.
So if you have a picture on your computer, Control Alt K will bring up a open file dialog where you can find that picture. We're going to do that one in a few moments.
Describe clipboard left paren keyboard shortcut Alt plus Control plus L right paren button. Be My AI tab, 1 of 2. To switch pages, press Control plus page down.
Now we have two tabs, the Be My AI tab, which we have right here, and a second tab for settings. We'll visit that a little bit later. I'm going to go to my desktop right now.
Windows M, desktop, folder view, list view, Zoom workplace.
And I will hit Control Alt H to hear a description of my desktop.
Alt Control H. Be My Eyes, Be My AI tab, 1 of 2. To switch pages, press Control plus page down. Please wait. Be My AI is writing a message ... Question to ask the AI edit. Type in text. Desktop with various icons and folders arranged in a grid. Some of the visible icons include : my drive shortcut, computer department, NFB newsline online low ... BSCP shortcut, WSCP3, favorites.
I hit the Control key to interrupt speech. I don't think we need to hear all the icons. Now I can simply start typing in follow-up questions if I have any. So for example, I'd like a detailed description of the background image on my desktop. So I will write that now.
PROVIDE space DETAILED space DESCRIPTION SPACKGOUNIMAGE.
And enter.
Enter. Message sent. Please wait. Be My AI is writing a message ... The background image features a serene landscape with soft, rolling hills. The sky is clear with a subtle gradient from a light blue at the top to a warmer hue near the horizon. The sun is low, either rising or setting, casting a gentle glow over the scene. The overall atmosphere is calm and peaceful, with muted colors that complement the desktop icons.
Now I could ask additional questions if I wanted to, but I won't do that right now. Now, let's see how I would get a description of an image file that I already have on the computer. Again, our keystroke was Control Alt K.
Alt Control K, Be My AI tab, 1 of 2. To switch pages, press Control plus page down. File name : open dialog. File name : edit combo.
This opens the standard open file dialog, and I'm going to Shift tab back so I can locate the file that I would like described.
Explorer pane, folder layout pane, shell folder view, items view list box, header, name split button, Audacity, 1 of 22.
I Shift tabbed twice, and I have a picture in the folder I'm currently in.
P. Pontes Media down P. Penguins on a beach.jpg, 21 of 22.
And I'll hit enter.
Enter. Be My AI tab, 1 of 2. To switch pages, press Control plus page down. Please wait. Be My AI is writing a message ... Question to ask the AI edit. Type in text. 3 emperor penguins standing on a sandy beach. They have black backs, white bellies, and distinctive orange-yellow markings on their necks. The penguin in the middle appears to be interacting with the other two, with its flippers extended towards them. The ocean is visible in the background, with waves gently crashing onto the shore.
And I'll ask the standard follow-up question I always ask for this picture. Are they smiling?
ARESPATHEWASPMILING. Enter. Message sent. Please wait. Be My AI is writing a message ... Penguins don't have facial muscles to smile like humans do, but their beak positions and body language can sometimes give the appearance of expressions. In this image, the penguins have their beaks slightly open, which might give the impression of a friendly interaction, but it's not a smile in the human sense.
Now let me go back to the Be My Eyes window.
Be My Eye.
Now I'll tab to the tabs that are on the screen.
Back button. Be My AI tab, 1 of 2. To switch pages, press Ctrl plus page down.
Now I find it's a little tricky to give the focus to the settings tab. I find that if I spacebar here,
Space.
and now right arrow,
Settings tab, 2 of 2. To switch pages, press Ctrl plus page down.
and hit enter, that will open settings.
Enter.
In settings, I can change my shortcut keys for the various keystrokes. I'll tab.
Customize keyboard shortcuts link. To activate, press enter.
I'll hit enter on that.
Enter. Back button. To activate, press spacebar.
And I'll tab because I want to change the Control-Alt-J to something that doesn't conflict with my JAWS.
Settings tab, 2 of 2. Describe my screen Alt. Describe clipboard Alt plus Control plus L button. To take picture Alt plus Control plus J button. To activate, press spacebar.
I'll hit the spacebar.
Space. Press a key combination read only edit. Alt plus Control plus J. Use your reading keys to read.
I'll make it Control-Alt-M because that doesn't conflict with any other keys that I currently use.
Alt Control M. Back button. To activate, press spacebar. Keyboard shortcut set to Alt plus Control plus M. Take picture Alt plus Control plus M button. To activate, press spacebar.
And now I've changed that. And again, this would be for using my built-in laptop camera to take a picture. So that's a little tour of Be My Eyes for Windows. To close the Be My Eyes app, simply get yourself back to that window and hit Alt F4, like you would do to close any other window.
Alt F4. Are you sure you want to close the app dialog? Cancel button. To activate, press spacebar.
And here tab to yes.
Yes. Close the app button.
Introduced in 2025, FS Companion is a great JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion tool that uses AI, where you can query it for how to do certain things using those programs, but also using Microsoft Office, Windows, the Google Workspace, a number of things. And I have found it extremely useful. I use it on a day-to-day basis. One important thing to point out is that you do not need to be a JAWS user to benefit from it. You could be an NVDA user if the types of questions you're asking are not dependent on JAWS keystrokes, such as much that you're going to do in Office, the Google Workspace, and so on. So there are a couple of ways you can access it. If you're using JAWS 2025, you can use the layered keystroke, insert spacebar together, followed by F1. But you can also access it from the web. And I'm on my address bar in Google Chrome right now, and here you would type in fscompanion.ai. That is fscompanion.ai. Now, I've gone there many times in the past, so I usually just have to type a single letter or two. I'll just type F.
Scompanion.ai. Selected.
And the rest of it showed up, and I'll hit enter, and we'll listen to what it says.
Enter. Hello there. I'm excited to help you learn more about JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion. Here are some things to know about our conversation : bullet. Use the New Conversation button to start a conversation about a new topic. Bullet. Click the Dictate button or press Alt plus Shift plus D to start dictating to FS Companion. Click the Dictate button again or press Alt plus Shift plus D to stop. The dictated text will appear in the input edit for review. To get started, just type your question in the chat box below.
Okay, so that's what you first hear. Dictation was added in just the last few months, but I'm simply going to use the chat box. I'll hit the letter E to get to that edit field.
Wrapping to top, type your question here, edit, blank.
And enter to get in.
Enter.
And I have another new section of my book about accessing advanced formulas or functions in Excel. I'm going to query FS Companion on what would be the formula you would use in Excel if you wanted to count up the number of cells in a data range with, let us say, the value between $0 and $500. So I'll type that now.
Enter. Excel formula for counting the number of cells in a data range between $0 and $500. To count the number of cells in a data range that contain values between $0 and $500 in Excel, you can use the COUNTIFs function. Here's how you can do it: 1. Assume your data range is in column A, from A1 to A100. 2. Use the following formula in a cell where you want the result to appear: equals COUNTIFs left paren A1 colon A100, quote greater equals 0, quote A1 colon A100, quote less equals 500, quote right paren. This formula counts all the cells in the range A1 colon A100 that have values greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 500. Adjust the range, A1 colon A100, to match your actual data range.
Okay, and there we have an explanation, and it correctly identified the COUNTIFs function as what we're going to use. It also gave the syntax. Now, I have found for more complex formulas, such as this one, it can be very hard to type in the exact syntax of the formula. In fact, I found that often very, very frustrating. But Excel has a tool that can lead you through step-by-step that process, as long as you know the data range that interests you, and you know what the criteria are that you'd like to use for that data range. And we go to the functions library in Excel to do that. So I'm in a spreadsheet now that has 2 columns.
First cell, type A1.
Where down column A, and it's cells A2 through A15, where I have types of investments.
Bond, A2. Stock, A3. Bond, A4. Stock, A5.
And in column B, we have the values.
Amount, $402. Bond, left paren $29.70. Stock, $263.
Now I'm going to go to a cell where I'd like to use the COUNTIFs function to calculate how many cells have a value between $0 and $500.
Type, stock, blank, $0 to $500, A17, amount, blank, B17.
So I'm going to do that here in cell B17. Now, the functions library is located in the Formula tab of the Excel ribbons. I'll open the ribbons with Alt.
Upper ribbon, expanded, ribbon, Home tab, 2 of 9, Alt followed by H.
And I'll right arrow along the upper ribbon to Formulas.
Insert tab, page list, Formulas tab, 5 of 9, Alt followed by M.
I'll move by group. I'll hit Control right arrow once to get to the functions library.
Formulas, function library, insert function ... button, 1 of 10. Work with the formula in the current cell. You can easily pick functions to use and get help on how to fill out the input values. Alt followed by M, F.
And I'll hit Enter.
Enter, leaving menus, advanced formulas practice.xlsx-excel, formula bar edit, equals, type in text, insert function dialog, search for a function : edit, type a brief description of what you want to do and then click go, type in text, Alt plus S.
And here I'll type COUNTIFs, that is COUNTIFS.
COUNTIFS.
And Enter.
Enter, go button. To activate, press space bar, Alt plus G, select a function : list box. COUNTIFs, counts the number of cells specified by a given set of conditions or criteria, 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
Sounds good. I'm going to tab once.
Help on this function link. To activate, press Enter.
Now, if I open this, this will bring me to a Microsoft support page, which gives me quite a bit of detail about this function, how to use it, maybe even gives some examples. I will tab, though, to the OK button.
OK button. To activate, press space bar.
And space bar.
Space. Advanced formulas practice.xlsx-excel, formula bar edit, equals COUNTIFs left paren right paren, type in text, function arguments, criteria underline range 1 edit, type in text.
So here it asks me first for the data range that I want to do this calculation on. That is going to be B2 through B15.
B2, colon, B1, 5.
And again, we type B2 colon B15 for that range B2 through B15. I'll tab once.
Criteria 1 edit, type in text.
And my first criteria will be greater than 0.
Greater. 0.
I will tab once.
Criteria underline range 2 edit, type in text.
Now the ranges could be different, but in this case, we want that same range, B2 through B15.
B2. B1, 5.
Tab once.
Criteria to edit. Type in text.
And my second criteria will be less than 500.
Less. 5, 0, 0.
Now I could keep tabbing there. You could add more criteria, but I'm just going to hit enter here.
Enter. 9, B17, 9, B17, contains formula.
And it has calculated the formula. I will hit F2 so we can see what that formula winds up being.
F2, edit. Equals count if left paren B2 colon B15 comma, quote greater 0 quote comma, B2 colon B15 comma, quote less 500 quote right paren. Type in text.
And now I could read character by character in here. Why don't I do that? I'll hit the home key, get to the beginning.
Home, equals.
And I'll right arrow, and we'll hear all the details of commas and quotations. And it can be very hard to type that right, but we didn't have to because of use of the functions library.
COUNTIFS, left paren B2 colon B1 5 comma quote greater 0 quote comma B2 colon B1 5 comma quote less 5 0 0 quote right paren blank.
And there we are.
Play button to activate. Press spacebar. Alt followed by P.
And as I said, there we are. So that's a little bit of what's new in the book. There's certainly more than that, but I just wanted to give a little sampling of some of that. I've only recently started using that functions library. I probably should have been using it for a lot longer, but it sort of opens new horizons because I really always hated having to deal with more complicated functions. You got to get all of your commas, your parentheses, your quotations exactly right. And if you don't, it's very unforgiving, but the functions library helps us out there. So I think, Dina, we're ready for Q&A if there are any folks with hands raised or chat.
Yes, thank you, David.
Evan
That
Roberts
was
raised hand.
I'm going to
amazing.
actually first turn off my screen share. Let me get over to that.
Great.
Launch files dash file Windows Media Player screen sharing meeting controls. Screen sharing meeting controls. Alt S your screen.
Right.
There we go. Okay.
Yes, thank you, David. That was very informative, a lot of it over my head, but also very impressive. The first audio filing of that interactive discussion about your book was amazing. I already sent you guys an email about signing me up for some training because that was very impressive and entertaining at the same time. So that was, it's amazing, AI, where it's going and where it will take us. So we will open it up. I noticed already there are a few questions in the Q&A. You could do chat Q&A. So let me bring those up first, and then we'll see if anybody has some live questions. So first of all, thank you for our shout out for somebody from Ukraine who's been following you, David, and using your book.
Great.
So thrilled to have you here.
Yeah,
So the
thrilled to
next
have
question
people
is
from all
kind
over
of-
the place. Yeah.
Yeah. We know you cover every continent in terms of your reach of this book. So thank you.
Even where
it's
all
cool.
those penguins are, even where those
Right,
penguins
yeah. Making a difference in people's lives. So we appreciate it. So this might be a two-part question from the same person. Are the pics being shared used to learn from by the AI? For example, Picture Smart has a more secure AI so that the content is private. Just curious if this is also secure.
I'm not really sure about that. I don't know the answer to that. So I plead ignorance there. Mhm.
Okay, all right. The next question in the Q&A is the audio overview mentioned a section about video editing using Reaper, which replaced an older, more out-of-date app. What specifically was the app Reaper is replacing?
Well, in the third edition, I talked about an app called Machete. And it had the advantage of being free. There was also a paid version. I actually bought the paid version for 19 or 20 bucks. Worked very nicely for audio editing until one day it just didn't work anymore. And even though I had the paid version, I emailed them about it. Never really got back to me. And the disadvantage of Reaper is You have to pay for it, but it's a one-time only purchase of $60. The advantage of Reaper is that it's not fly-by-night. It's very well established. A lot of blind people use it. And you can get, if you get on one of the groups.io lists, you can get a lot of help from people. Most people who do, blind people who do podcasts, multi-track podcasts and like, they do that with Reaper in the audio. And I just discovered that, oh, you can use that for editing video. It's really hard to find an accessible video editor. Very hard to find that. And Reaper at this point is the only one that I know that can reliably do that. Yeah.
Okay. This might be an answer to some of the previous question. Be My Eyes does use a secure AI. If you accidentally expose information, you can even email them to have your information scrubbed.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one more from the Q&A, then we'll go to the live. Is there oh yeah, so there is a recording available for this presentation. I can answer that one. So it will be available on our website in a couple days, but if you register, you'll get an email as well with okay. So we have two questions. Okay, let's start with Dawn. I'm gonna unmute you if you want to ask your question.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't help but notice, so I liked that notebook LM thing. I've actually been kind of looking at trying that myself a little bit. They're looking at coming out with an iOS app here pretty soon, so I'm gonna try that with some things. So I do have a question about, so you're mentioning Reaper, but do you also have stuff in there about Goldwave? That is another audio editing program. I know there is a friend of mine who is blind. I don't know if he's on the call tonight or not, but that uses Goldwave for his stuff instead of Reaper because it works better for him, and uses it with JAWS. So I don't know if you've thought of putting stuff in there on Goldwave, but if you have, yeah.
The chapter, the chapter where I talk about both. Oh, got a little bit of echo from somewhere there. The chapter where I talk about audio and video editing. For the audio, for the moment, I only talk about Audacity, mainly because it's free and it works well. But I've thought about also adding Goldwave. Goldwave also costs, I think, about $60 now, one-time only purchase. And actually, I used Goldwave a lot before I used Reaper. With Goldwave, you can only edit audio. You cannot edit video. And so I've been thinking about it, and I might add Goldwave to the next edition, because we're always adding new stuff. I will not drop Audacity, but also add Goldwave. And Goldwave works very well and very, very easy to use. So I will think about that.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. All right, Kevin is next. I'm going to have him unmute.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. First of all, thank you for putting this book out. I actually never heard of the Screen Reader Primer until now. Actually, not even the first edition. I didn't know it existed, but I'm going to check this fourth edition out. Second of all, I got two questions and clarification. Is there an audio version of the primer, or because I heard it mention something about FS Reader in the notebook LM? Is it going to be an audio version of the primer? And second of all, you can use Reaper for free, but you'll get bugged by those evaluation things. But you can use it past the trial thing if you don't want to pay for it too. If people want to do that, they can do that if they want. It can be done. You just have to dismiss that dialogue every time. But yeah. So, but yeah, my main question is, and how did you end up coming up with the first edition? Actually, isn't my other question. How did you, what made you start coming up with the first edition?
Okay. So it does talk about using FS Reader as a way to read it. And, with that, you sort of have the option of uh, having sort of like a person speak, a synthetic voice speak, and so on. But there isn't really an audio version of this. And the thing is, even if you did an audio version, unless it was like a DAISY type book, it wouldn't be very good for as a reference document because, the skipping around you can do much better in a text type of situation. So it hasn't been put out in audio. Don't sort of plan on doing that. Um, so the first edition came out in 2022, just like the Notebook LM folks told you. And again, I'd written a couple of books before. I'd written a book on Word, published by National Braille Press. And then I did a second one on navigating the web. And I thought, gee, maybe I'll do a third book on Excel or a fourth book on PowerPoint and so on and so forth. And then I thought about it a bit more. And this was actually during the pandemic. I had a little bit more time than I normally had. I said, why don't I just, write one book where I just try to centralize a whole bunch of stuff? Because, part of the challenge I've always found as a screen reader user, as well as somebody who's an instructor, is you got to grab information from a whole bunch of different places to sort of get your complete package. For example, I need to learn a screen reader. So I need to, avail myself of the JAWS help resources. I need to use Office. So there I need to go to Office to figure that stuff out. And then there's web browsing, and then there's PDFs, and now there's Zoom and all of these other things. So the idea was to sort of have like a textbook, a one-stop shop, where you could get, all of these things. Now, is it exhaustive? Is everything in there? Of course not. And I wouldn't want everything to be in there. But again, the subchapter, the subtitle is All the Basics and More. So I think all the basics are there, and certainly a bit more. So that's been the idea. And again, this is the fourth edition. First one came out 3 years ago. So, and I hope you
Great.
enjoy your read through.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, we're gonna go to Chris next.
Hello. First off, Kevin, you can actually hear that via audio. You just have to sign up for David's class in person. That having been said, I got a question. Have you run into any roadblocks, any rocky terrain, or anything that's like completely unusable in this?
Well, nothing that's
Or
in the
is
book
this
is,
iteration?
yeah, I don't, everything that I've put in the book is usable. I'll give you an example that's something that is unusable that would be nice if it was usable. For example, there are these things called animations in PowerPoint. Very nice if it was accessible. And I've seen books for screen readers where they talked about animations, but I didn't put it in because if you can't use it, I'm not going to put it in there. The day that it becomes accessible again, and Microsoft people know that it's inaccessible, that's the day I'll put it in the book. Now, the things that I did cover, there are some issues sometimes. I could not do for the Notebook LM, for example, I could not do that as a live demo because the time it took to generate those folks talking is something like 10 or 15 minutes. And sometimes you sort of think as you're generating it, do they still remember that I'm here or not? But, if you just go away, get some coffee. So a little bit slow in that way. So, there are some things that are a little glitchy from time to time, but pretty much everything in there works. Now, that doesn't mean this is technology, so that doesn't mean everything's going to work a couple of months from now or a week from now. We also have processors and procedures that change all the time. I have a new section on the new Outlook. They're updating the new Outlook all the time. So there might be something that's in there today that 2-3 weeks from now isn't working anymore. One thing that worked very well, very, very well, when I think I talked about it first in the second edition, was setting up Zoom meetings. Okay, in the Zoom workplace app. Unfortunately, the Zoom app, the app that when you put it on your desktop, in my opinion, it is horrendous from a usability point of view. And I don't even try to teach people how to set up meetings anymore unless they really have to, because you have to power through that. So there, I don't really highlight quite so much what the problems are. Zoom is degenerated. I hope it gets better. So there are some glitchy things there in the world, but I do point out when I think something is problematic, but then and warn people you got to power through it. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Great,
Thank you
great.
much.
Thanks, Chris. I'm gonna give the access to Bob. But while he's getting on, also let people know there was a question. The book is available to download from the Carroll Center website. It's Carroll, CARROLL.org/store. And if you go under books, the 4th edition is there and it's active now if you'd like to download it. And it is free, but certainly we love anybody who can support us with donations so we can support the work that David continues to do, because I'm sure there'll be a 5th edition in his future at some point in time. So, all right. Bob, go ahead.
Hi, David and Dana and Brian, thank you so much for facilitating this webinar. David, thank you for all the effort you've put in to this primer. Boy, what a blessing to have this. I'm only about a 2-year-old JAWS user. My question for you is, what has been your experience with JAWS Tandem? The little experience I've had with it, with a wonderful man who's been my computer tutor. He kind of learned a lot on his own. He's a brilliant guy, but he taught me a lot of things using JAWS Tandem that's really helpful with 2 blind users on their computers. What's been your experience?
My experience with Tandem has been it's a little bit clunky.
Okay.
And when I say a little bit clunky, often people you are helping out, and I've had this experience, are really quite new to computers, even maybe have a little bit of awkwardness just in terms of typing things in. And they've got to get to a place where they have to type in sort of the magic code, and that can be a little bit difficult. What I use and what I prefer now is RIM, Remote Incident Manager. And that you can use for free for a limited amount of time, but still enough time on a daily basis. And the advantages of RIM are, one, it's not dependent on you being a JAWS user or an NVDA user or even a screen reader user. And secondly, as with Tandem, you give another person a code, but you just have to tell them what the code is, and they just have to type it in. And it can be something as simple as, and this is what I do, AAA, okay? And then they're in. And I found that just sort of a bit easier to use, and it's not dependent on you being a good typist or being able to get to the right place with the right keystrokes to type in your code.
Mm-hmm.
And it works very, very nicely. Remote Incident Manager. You can download that for free. You get 30 minutes a day for free. Doesn't sound like much, but often you're sort of just troubleshooting something with another person. You get in, you get out, and that 30 minutes, winds up being quite generous most of the time. So
how does that compare with, let's say, TeamViewer QS?
I have never used that, so I can't say, but RIM is just extremely easy to use. And again, it's designed by blind people for blind people. Anybody can use it, but it's really designed to be very, very accessible, very, very usable. Remote Incident Manager, RIM. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Roger?
Oh, and I'll say, by the way, I think it's the last chapter of my book where I talked about RIM. So that's discussed in the last chapter of the book, RIM. Mhm.
Hi, David. Thank you both and the Carroll Center for being there. I just wanted to encourage, I had during an advanced internship to design a JAWS course before from ground up for beginners, and I know how much work must have gone into this book. So I, for one, will certainly make a donation to the Carroll Center for the book. For that,
Thank you.
because I know how many hours you guys or David, you must have spent and how much work goes into it. And thank you so much for doing a comprehensive thing, because that's, like you mentioned, it's always a task to try to find the resources. And now we have ChatGPT, and then we have Microsoft Copilot, and they all have their benefits and so forth. But thank you so much for doing that. My question is, I've been hesitant to go to the new Outlook version, and I settled on Classic for now. Would you encourage me to do the switch over to the new Outlook version?
I don't think there's any reason to switch over right away, but there's also no reason to be scared of it, because when it first came out a year and a half ago, it wasn't accessible. People were saying, "Don't go near it, don't go near it," and that was the right answer at that point. But it's easy to go in, explore it, play around with it a little bit, and then get yourself back to the classic. And I talk about in chapter 4, which is about Outlook. I talk about it. So go ahead, explore it. I use Classic still on the daily basis, just because that's what I've been using for years. Classic is supposed to be around till 2029, so there's no hurry to get rid of it. And they've made major improvements in the new Outlook since it first came out a year and a half or two ago, and it's pretty much fully accessible. Still a few glitchy little things, but nothing major. So it's easy to explore, and you're not signing your life away because you can just quickly go back to Classic. In fact, I think I saw a message recently, again, things are always changing, that apparently you can have them both running at the same time, Classic and the new Outlook. I think that's going to be rolled out soon. That's not covered in this edition of the book because that didn't exist yet. But so I expect that change to be coming, in the next few weeks or months. Mm-hmm.
And usually, just for everybody that doesn't know, usually the Microsoft desk through Be My Eyes, they have always been very kind and with quick assist to log into our machines and help us out when something is visually inaccessible for us or so forth. So my experience with Microsoft has been really good with their accessibility desk through the Be My Eyes app. And so I encourage everybody, if you have problems with the Microsoft problem, take advantage of that support, because it's free and they'll literally be there with you through any problems you have.
Yeah, the Microsoft Disability Desk is a really, really great resource. Very, very good resource.
All right, thank you, Roger. We have time for one more. We're going to talk to Richard. But Richard, before I let you go on, just going to let people know, again, it is being recorded. The book is currently live on the carroll.org/store website. And David, Brian, and other team members are always available for instruction, group or one-on-one instructions, whether it's for a couple hours or a couple of weeks. Whatever you need, we're here to help you and support your journey in using technology and being independent and as expert as David is. Richard,
if I could mention one other thing.
Yep, go ahead.
Mention one other thing real quickly, and that is that there are download instructions now after you fill out the form. And I've noticed that sometimes the download is instantaneous, right to your downloads folder. But recently with Dropbox, because that's what it's going through, it's a little bit more complicated. I have instructions that are right there, but you'll probably get shot out of that window before you read through the instructions. If you have any problem with the download, you can email me again at david.kingsbury@carroll.org, and I'll email you those what those steps are. So if you have any problem with the download, again, that's not the fault of anybody at the Carroll Center. That's just how things have developed a little bit with Dropbox. So,
Thank you. All right, Richard?
Yes, I noticed Microsoft Office keeps going up in price, and a lot of other sighted people out there don't even use it. They just use Google Docs for everything, what they use in high schools and so forth and so on. Am I inferring correctly that the blind using Google Docs blind is just nowhere near as efficient as just sticking with Microsoft Office?
Good question. I could rail on for that one forever. Now, I do have a chapter. It's actually the largest chapter in the book on using the Google Workspace, including Docs, Sheets, and a few
I
other
noticed you said that,
things.
yes.
So it's fully accessible, usable, different learning curve because, you know, it's different than Office and so on. And what I think people who are power users, let us say power users of, let's say, you know, like writing a book like the book I wrote, something big like that, or you are an accountant. Okay, as an accountant, let's say a power user of spreadsheets, you are going to use Excel. You are not going to use Google Sheets. Same thing with docs. However, for sharing, I think fairly simple documents, simultaneous editing between, and so on, docs and sheets, I think, are better, easier, more fluid, easy to use. So for those types of things. And increasingly in the workplace, including at the Carroll Center, I work primarily with Microsoft Office programs, but I'm frequently sharing or being asked to share and collaborate on docs and sheets. So you want to know, you know, in the workplace, in the school setting, you want to know how to do both. But they are docs, sheets, and many of the other Google Workspace apps are fully accessible, easy to use, and in some ways better. So I always like to say, you know, use more tools, you know, be flexible. And there is the last section of that chapter. I try with, you know, my own opinions to answer some of those questions you just asked. You know, what are the pros and cons of Office versus the Google Workspace for various things? So that's my short answer to what could be a very long answer.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us this evening. What great conversation and great information that David has shared with us. We really appreciate your support of his endeavors and supporting the Carroll Center as well. It's a great book and access for many individuals to develop their skills and develop their knowledge. And I'm a classic Outlook user as well. Also want to stick with it for as long as I can. So appreciate the conversation, the information, and we hope you will share with us more about what you're doing and questions you have or engaging with us in technology related activities, knowledge, etc. So thank you again to David and everyone for being with us tonight. And yes, the recording will go out through an email follow-up and a link to download the book. But if you're eager to get it, and you can navigate the website tonight and download it as well. And certainly reach out to David. You can also use info@carroll.org if you have a question and you can't remember his email address as well. So thank you, David, for all your hard work in putting this together. I know this is a labor of love for you, and we greatly appreciate that we have you on the Carroll Center team. And your contributions are so great for our consumers and the Carroll Center team as well. So thank you. And thank you, Brian, for being here tonight and supporting the team as well. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you all for coming. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.